Welcome to the Please Suck Less podcast, a podcast where one guy shares his views of where the fire service can improve. Thanks for listening. Hello and welcome to the Please Suck Less podcast. So let's just get right into it. There's been a few things that have been on my mind, as I say every podcast. This one in particular kind of hits in the all facets of work life, whether it's the fire service or the police or even in the civilian world. Why is it that the shittiest employees stick around, do nothing, are never held accountable, while the really good employees that are there that make a difference, that care, ultimately just get fed up and they leave and they go find another position? And in the end, the organization suffers. Yet the management, the leaders of these organizations just overlook the turd employees and let them get away with doing nothing. I've talked to people in the medical field that have employees that actually sleep, on the job when they're supposed to be monitoring patients. There's people that close their doors in offices and do nothing, and it's well documented. And employees go to management and just say, "Look, the team's not performing because this particular person, we've told you about it," and yet nothing happens. And all that does is just breed this resentment, and morale goes into the toilet. And yet they allow these burdens, for lack of a better word, of employees to stay on the job. They don't do anything. I mean, they almost to the point where HR will only get involved if they feel that the organization might suffer, not the fact that other employees around them are suffering or that morale's low, but they only get involved, HR will only get involved if they think that the organization might suffer, and then they do something about it. In the meantime, you have high turnover rate. You've got the really good employees that truly care about the job, that got in the job for the right reason, had high hopes of making a difference, just get ground down because they're left doing the work of these few employees that bring nothing to the table, that basically get away with doing nothing, continue to collect a paycheck, and at the end of the day, you see these people just continue to exist in the organization, and nothing gets done about it. And you have to ask yourself, does management see the high turnover rate of good employees going out the door? Do they have exit interviews? And in the exit interviews, if these employees that are leaving are truthful and tell them why, then the question gets asked, why isn't something being done about it? They just continue to exist. They take up space. They waste the air of the employees that are truly there, like I said, for the right reasons, but that's the high turnover rate. We see it in the fire service, where you have people that are just barely making it as a C-level firefighter. They're mediocre, and mediocrity kills. And they, as an officer, as a leader in the organization, the amount of paperwork that you have to accumulate on somebody in order to get it up to the level that they may end up getting fired or at least disciplined is staggering. I've said it 1,000 times. The hardest thing we do in the fire service is discipline, because a lot of times it just falls on deaf ears. And you have these employees that will make an entire career of just flat out sucking, and that their slack is constantly being picked up. And they continue to just exist in the organization until they either leave or they retire. Very rarely do you see somebody being terminated. And then usually what happens when somebody gets terminated, ultimately it ends up they go to court or they bring a lawyer and something wasn't done correctly, the paperwork wasn't done right, and then that person's right back on the floor again, not having done anything to make themselves more productive. So what I try to put out to you guys that are into the job for the right reasons is keep a journal. Write down things that you see, especially if you're an officer in the fire service or you're management or whatever. You need to make sure that you have things in writing. You need to make sure that it's documented, it's dated. And as management, you have to approach this particular employee that is basically a turd to the system, and you need to outline your expectations and where they fail in your expectations and what they have to do to improve. I remember I had to do a work improvement plan for an employee. I've never done one before. And my boss says, the first thing that you have to do is you have to have everything documented. Luckily, I had everything documented. Then the next thing that I had to do was I had to put a report together as part of the work improvement plan. I had to bring the employee in and outline where they weren't meeting expectations. Then I had to tell them what they had to do in order to meet my expectations. So I basically had to give them the answers. And then I gave them a timeline. And even after all of that, if the employee didn't improve, it's still no guarantee that any discipline would have happened. So I get it that, being management and doing to discipline somebody or to hold somebody accountable is difficult because we know deep down inside, chances are nothing's going to happen. But my guide to you as leaders of the organization: stay the course. Make sure you document everything. Cover yourself. Have so much documentation that they can't turn a blind eye to it. Sometimes you have to be the squeaky wheel. Um, if God forbid something happens and somebody gets hurt, you have it documented that this has been an ongoing issue and that management knew about it. The only way that you're going to be able to be heard is to continue to voice your concerns. So to wrap this up, and I know this will be a short one, just stay the course. We know we have crappy employees that are out there. We know that it seems like they get away with murder. They are collecting a paycheck. They are a drain to the organization. They are what is single-handedly putting morale in the toilet, coupled with management not taking care of that particular issue. We see a revolving door of employees, good employees, leaving to go to other companies, sometimes rival companies, because the issues are not being taken care of at the lowest possible level. So please, don't give up. Continue to be the best employee you can. Remember, mediocrity kills. Don't ever stoop down to those people's level. Hold people accountable. If you are management, make sure you have clear expectations. And at the end of the day, you need to suck less and do better. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in to the Please Suck Less podcast. If you like what you hear, you can drop me a note. You can find me on Instagram at Please Suck Less. Thanks for listening.